Hello everyone, this is ROOTKiWiKaKi, and we are going to be taking a look at a Protoss versus Zerg matchup, and we've heard a lot of people say that this is actually a difficult matchup for Zerg players right now, so we'll see how KATZ handles this. This is actually a game between two different Root members. We've got ROOTCatZ versus ROOTKiWiKaKi, and KiWiKaKi, obviously a very solid Protoss player, facing off against ROOTCatZ. This is Metalopolis, the 4-player map, so neither one of them is going to be aware of where the other spawns, and true to most Zergs these days, sending that first Overlord up to this base up at the top here, because obviously it is a lot shorter distance to travel by air. You can get a bearing on where your opponent is relatively quickly by doing that, and it looks like he's actually going to go ahead and drone straight up to 10, get an Overlord, and then he's actually sending out his early drone scout here, going to scout right on 10 and try to get some information. I don't think those workers actually crossed each other's paths, so still going to be unaware until just now. It looks like both players are going to scout each other pretty quickly here, so a lot of information going to be gathered, and right now we can see that KATZ is already up to 13 drones. We're going to be going 14 drones. We have not seen a pool yet, so it looks like he is going to be going for a little bit more economic minded game. Meanwhile, it looks like KiWiKaKi is going to go ahead and throw down his first pylon here out in the front of his ramp, possibly going to go for some kind of forge fast expand build, which will allow him to get that extra base up pretty quickly here. And as you can see, he did put down that forge, so possibly going to try to wall off ROOTCatZ from getting this expansion up and running. Although do note that with the latest patch, you can no longer wall off this ramp with just 2 pylons. It looks like he is going to go ahead and throw down a pylon to try to stop that expansion from being put down. We'll see if he tries to put down some cannons on that here in just a little bit. Of course, any amount of time that you can delay a Zerg expansion is super annoying for the Zerg player, because Zergs rely on having more bases than their opponents on most occasions. And it looks like the spawning pool just now going down, so apparently Roots is going to just say, alright, fine, you can delay my expansion, I'm just going to go ahead and get my spawning pool up and running, which of course is the wise thing to do rather than wasting a bunch of time trying to kill that pylon. And it looks like an Evo chamber going down for ROOTCatZ at the expansion. It looks like he is going to go ahead and try to play a little bit more offensively, preventing that forge fast expand. Now, for those of you who don't know exactly how he did this, basically what you do if you're Zerg, you put down a hatchery, and then basically when that hatchery has been down for a few seconds, you just cancel it, and there will still be a small amount of creep there. You can go ahead and plant a small building there, such as a evolution chamber. So it looks like he did go ahead and throw that down to prevent the expansion. Of course, these cannons here are going to be able to get that expansion up and running relatively quickly, but it looks like KATZ is actually going to go for the gold base in the middle, and I'm not sure if this is something that KiWiKaKi has spotted yet. It looks like he has. Wow, and apparently it looks like KATZ is not aware that KiWiKaKi has spotted it, because he has not canceled it yet. Either that, or he is just supremely confident that he can hold that base despite how close it is to his opponent's base. And it looks like KiWiKaKi is now going to go ahead and throw down that Nexus at the natural base there. And as you can see here, he has created a wall off with a forge, a gateway, and a couple of cannons here behind there. So it's going to be very difficult for Zerg to put any early pressure on KiWiKaKi here. But note that it's also going to be very difficult for KiWiKaKi to push out on the map at all, because he of course is investing a lot of his early resources on getting this expansion up and running. So he is not going to have the resources to really push out on the map and put pressure on ROOTCatZ until he has had that expansion up for just a little bit. But also note that there's a lot of drones coming out here. He is okay, I'm sorry, I thought he was actually going to all in with drones for a second there, which did not seem right. It looks like he is going to just go ahead and send him straight to the gold base. Of course, he is going to get a huge spike on his income because of that, because the gold bases you can mine so much quicker. And even though there's not as many workers out for ROOTCatZ right now, you can see that he is going to be on par, if not slightly ahead here on the income. And yeah, you can see he is now jumping ahead by 100 or 200 here. Actually, it looks like it's going to be 200 or 300 on the income tab here, despite the fact that he has less harvesters than KiWiKaKi by a pretty substantial number. 7 harvesters, although now it's jumping up to 24 versus 28, so only 4 harvesters. Not as big of a discrepancy, but having that harvester discrepancy this early in the game can actually be a pretty big deal. Meanwhile, looking back at KiWiKaKi's build, he is actually going to go ahead and get the warp gate technology out, which is of course very common. I'll be curious to see if we see any Phoenix harassment from KiWiKaKi, because of course with the latest patch, the amount of the Phoenix build time has been decreased by 10. So getting that those Phoenix out early, you no longer need 2 Stargates to build a decent amount of Phoenix. You can actually get a decent amount of Phoenix out of 1 Stargate, especially if you're using Chrono Boost. Now, it only takes about the same amount of time as a Zealot to build one Phoenix if you're using your that Chrono Boost, so pretty fast. They build pretty quick right now, and it looks like KaTZ is actually going to go ahead and go for Roach Tech. He does not yet have up a layer, which I think a layer might actually be a good idea to harass at his main, but it looks like KiWiKaKi is going to go ahead and try to do a 4-gate pressure build here. He is putting up his additional 3 gates here on the low ground, and they are going to be relatively defended behind this wall of cannons. Although if there are Mutalisks coming in, this main base is going to be really exposed. And wow, actually 2 more gates going up already as well, so it's going to be a 6-gate pressure build, and this is going to be very difficult to stop if he hits this timing before ROOTCatZ is actually able to get up a decent amount of units. We can see that he's already got a handful of roaches and zerglings here, but once those 6 warp gates really finish up, it's going to be very difficult to keep up with the production of those 6 warp gates. Although he does have a 3rd hatchery going down at his natural, so it looks like he is going to have a decent amount of hatcheries up, and of course the queens. He is going to need to keep those queens alive, of course, for the larva inject, which is going to be very, very important for building enough units to hold off this attack. And it looks like KaTZ is actually going to go ahead and get his layer tech up now, continuing to drone up a little bit at his main here. Actually, he is getting back to close to full saturation here. Actually, I'm sorry, he's only about halfway there, it looks like, between all of his gas geysers and his minerals, and hatching out a bunch more zerglings here. And it looks like the roaches are already pushing in here, doing some damage, trying to take on these zealots. Roaches, of course, very strong against zealots, but with those stalkers warping in, he is going to have to back off. But here come the zerglings to do a surround, and it looks like they are going to get taken down pretty quickly by those zealots, although the zealot numbers dwindling now with the roaches able to actually deal some serious damage, and KiWiKaKi is going to have to back off. Does not have enough stalkers to take on those zerg units, and it looks like KiWiKaKi is actually going to continue to have to play on the defensive here with that 6 warp gate opening. And looking at the miners, we can still see that KiWiKaKi does have a lead on the miners and the income right now, although actually ROOTCaTZ not as far behind as he could be, simply because he does have that gold base up and running. And it looks like KiWiKaKi is going to try to put an end to that. He is going for the gold base right now, already taking down an Overlord, possibly going to snipe another one here real quick. But here come the zerglings and roaches from ROOTCaTZ. That Overlord does manage to stay alive here for a second. Oh my gosh, sorry about that misclick. And here come more roaches from ROOTCaTZ. He's going to try to get down here and do some damage to these zealots. A couple of roaches getting stuck in front of those force fields, but most of them staying up behind the force fields, only losing 1 roach there. I'm not sure if that actually helped KiWiKaKi or hurt KiWiKaKi's offensive there, because he did not run away and didn't really do a whole lot more damage. But here comes some more units right now from KiWiKaKi. He's going to try to get these roaches out of position, and ROOTCaTZ is just going to have to continue to crank out units right now. A bunch more zerglings getting ready to hatch at the gold base here, and if we look at the production menu, we can see that right now he is actually starting to build Hydralisks as well, getting that range upgrade. Hydralisks are very, very strong against these gateway units, so if he can continue to crank out zerglings, roaches, and hydras especially, he should be okay. But hydras, of course, very, very slow off creep. He's going to need to continue to expand that creep across the map so that he can let those hydras get into the battle quicker and do the damage that they need to do. And of course, without that creep, the hydralisks are pretty much not able to retreat, so when you engage, you better be dang well sure that you can actually take that army on, because when you engage, there's no turning back with those hydralisks once they've been brought into the fray of that battle. But looking at the unit mix up here, we can see that there is a lot of units still being built, zerglings and hydras coming out for ROOTCaTZ right now, and it looks like there's actually a robo bay going, or I'm sorry, a robotics facility rather, going down for KiWiKaKi. Of course, those are going to bring out the immortals, which are very, very effective for dealing with these roaches. Immortals just do so much damage against roaches, and here's a lot of zerglings, hydras, and roaches engaging this Protoss army once again. Unfortunately, all the roaches and hydralisks did get walled off with those force fields, so the zerglings are going to be cleaned up, but a lot of these units from KiWiKaKi are getting very, very low in their health. The shields are gone, and a lot of them taking damage on their HP as well. But there is going to be a lot more units warping in here, and this is a very, very tense moment right now. Both players battling it out in the middle of the map, and it looks like more zerglings going to come in and force KiWiKaKi back on the map once again, and there is even more zerglings coming in from the flank as well. Just tons of zerglings to support this very small Roach Hydra army, and it looks like KiWiKaKi is actually going to go and try to put up a proxy pylon, but it has been spotted by KaTZ, and KaTZ is going to go ahead and take that down to prevent him from warping in units on his front doorstep. But looking at the base of KiWiKaKi, it looks like he has his robo facility finished, but he has not yet warped in any immortals or anything, just going to continue with this gateway pressure. And actually, he is getting the robotics bay, so it looks like we are going to see some Colossus pressure from the Protoss player KiWiKaKi here. But excuse me there, it looks like ROOTCatZ has not really droned up a whole lot more. He is still behind 8 harvesters, which at this stage in the game is not as big of a deal as it was earlier in the game, but still he really does need to catch up with those resource gatherers, especially saturating his natural and his main once again. The only base right now that's really fully saturated is this gold base, which it looks like is going to be going mining out here relatively quickly, but he is getting a spire, so it looks like we may indeed see possibly some Mutalis tech, or if he does know, I'm not sure if he did scout this or not, we'll take a look real quick. If he did scout the robotics bay, no, he did not. So he does not have any idea that those Colossus are coming, at least not anything based on scouting intelligence. Of course, these guys playing with each other a lot are aware of each other's playstyles, so I'll be curious to see if he just automatically goes Corruptors by default, expecting KiWiKaKi to go for those Colossus just because he knows how he plays. And it looks like the first Colossus is about ready to pop out of the robotics facility here, and the Thermal Lance upgrade is about halfway done, which the Thermal Lance very, very strong against Zerglings and Hydralisks. Not as strong against Roaches, but still quite strong. And it looks like ROOTCatZ is actually going to go ahead and try to get up a gold base, another gold base here. So he is just trying to take over this corner of the map. You can see right now it looks like ROOTKiWiKaKi is just kind of shoved into a little bit of a corner here, not really able to get out on the map. And there's a bunch of Zerg units swarming in here, possibly going to surround. No, he is going to back off and wait for a more opportune time. Of course, does not want to let him get the support of those photon cannons when he engages him. And it looks like we are going to see a battle here sometime soon, as KiWiKaKi is continuing to poke out and prod against this Zerg army. And here comes the flank from the low ground, and we'll see if he can actually trap this army up here. But here come the 2 Colossus. These Colossus, are they going to be enough to deal the damage he needs to do to take out this Zerg army? A lot of units on the low ground getting taken out for KiWiKaKi, but ROOTCatZ does not have enough to take this army on when it's split like this with handling these Colossus, and it looks like he is going to have to back off here, and the Colossus just backing up, trying to stay within range of those cannons. And meanwhile, it looks like the gold base for ROOTCatZ is finished now on the other side, and he has droned up a little bit more, it looks like. But here comes the Colossus once again with Zealots in the front, and Zealots are a lot stronger against Roaches when they have those Colossus to back them up. A bunch more Roaches and Hydralisks over here that may be getting caught out of position, and KiWiKaKi moving out once again, going to take out a few Overlords possibly. No, actually both the Overlords managing to stay alive with very low HP, so it looks like we're not going to see him supply blocking. Here come the Corruptors to take down these Colossus possibly, and a flank from the Zerg units on the low ground, but I don't think this is going to be enough. This may have been a little too late for ROOTCatZ here. He's going to have to rally out a lot more units, managing to take down 1 Colossus right now, but it looks like the Corruptors are going to try to clean up this last Colossus. Are they going to be able to get it? There's a lot of anti-air here. It doesn't look like it. He is going to be able to hold on to 1 Colossus and even losing a bunch of Overlords here. So it looks like ROOTCatZ possibly in a bad situation, moving his drones from his first gold base over to his second gold base now, and it looks like he is going to try to get up enough units to hold off this Protoss push. And here comes the Colossus down the ramp. There's only 1 Colossus right now that is being held, is helping this Protoss army, which is primarily Stalkers and Zealots. More Stalkers, Zealots, and Colossus coming from behind, and this may be enough Corruptors to take down the Colossus, although a lot of them getting focus fired down. He is going to have to take that down before he can really engage this army full on, because that Colossus deals so much damage to all of the ground forces that we see coming from ROOTCatZ right now. And he is able to take down most of the Zealots, it looks like, but there's still a lot of Stalkers here, and there is of course that 1 Colossus remaining, which is going to be quite strong against most of the units that we're seeing from ROOTCatZ right now. And it looks like both players doing a very good job of keeping up with their unit production here, staying even. And looking at the unit production, we can see that there is a range upgrade coming for our Zerg player, as well as a carapace upgrade, so he is going to try to get that. And a bunch of probes coming up now from ROOTCatZ as well. Is he going to try to take this expansion, or is he going to go all in? This is a very interesting situation here, because of course that army right now is got a lot of probes to buffer at the front, which will allow those ranged units to deal a lot more damage. And of course this is going to be one of the Oh, and sorry about that. My microphone died in the middle of casting this game, so I'm casting the rest of this post-production. But anyways, it looks like we do have a very large Protoss force here moving up. Colossus, Stalkers, Zealots, and a lot of those probes, as I mentioned a little bit ago, up front. And here comes a bunch of Banelings going to try to come in and possibly take out those probes. But no, the Banelings are going to get shot down immediately by those Colossus. And here comes the Roaches, although unfortunately a lot of those Roaches are in bad position. They're not all engaging at once. This is not looking good for KaTZ. He is going to have to do some stellar defense here, especially focusing down those Colossus, although with no Corruptors in the mix right now, it's going to be very difficult for him to handle this Protoss force. And it looks like that army is going to take down the remaining Roaches. A couple of Roaches, and it looks like one Corruptor finally getting out, are going to retreat back into the main. And once he loses this natural and his main, which of course has all the tech, he's going to be in a bad position. He really needs to defend this position and hold on to this base if at all possible. And of course right now ROOTCatZ is he does still have the other gold base up. The one gold base is mined out, and right now KiWiKaKi, his main base is mined out. He is only harvesting from one base, which is his natural down at the bottom of the map. So he is only one basing right now, just now trying to get up a third base, but of course he lost a ton of probes with this last attack here. So even if he gets that base up and running, it's going to take him quite a long time to actually get it saturated with probes, as he'll still have probes harvesting at his natural. But it looks like KiWiKaKi is going to manage to take out all the tech for the Zerg player KATZ, and it looks like KATZ is actually going to go ahead and do a counterattack here with some Roaches here, going to try to focus down some sentries and zealots, and able to pick off one sentry already, and those Protoss forces are going to run and try to join up with the rest of the Protoss army. And meanwhile, it looks like all the tech has been cleaned up in KATZ's base, so he is going to try to continue to pressure this expansion with these Roaches, doing some damage to that Nexus there. And it looks like there is a handful of units still up at the old main base of KATZ, but these Roaches not getting out of there quick enough. They are for some reason still running, despite the fact that this army can outrun those Roaches off creep, and it looks like he is going to indeed only get one of those Roaches away. But meanwhile, this base for ROOTCatZ is up and running. He's trying to rebuild his tech, getting that spawning pool up and running right now. Not going to be able to build any Roaches. He does still have a Spire, so he can crank out some more Corruptors if he can manage to get them out in time. But for some reason, not spending his money right now. He does have some larvas at that gold base that was just killed, which he did not use for some reason to rebuild any of his army. And it looks like some Speedlings actually moving out as well, going to possibly try to hit that that extra base down at the bottom. But KiWiKaKi moving his army up, going to try to take out the last remaining base from ROOTCatZ, and it looks like these Speedlings going to do a little bit of damage, but there is some Zealots being worked in, so they're not going to be able to do too much more. And here comes the Corruptors, only 3 Corruptors. That is not going to be nearly enough to deal with these 4 Colossus, especially with that many Stalkers underneath them. And of course, here comes the Guardian Shield, even further preventing those Corruptors from doing any serious damage. And it looks like ROOTCatZ is going to have to GG very shortly. He does not have nearly enough units to deal with this Protoss force, and only 1 Roach remaining now, along with 2 Spine Crawlers, which are both going to fall very quickly. I would expect a GG any minute. The Roach weren't just finishing, and ROOTCatZ claiming that this is bull. How can you say Zerg is OP, but you can win? That indeed does not seem fair. Zerg versus Protoss, of course, a pretty difficult matchup for Zerg right now. It seems like Protoss have it figured out. Of course, the meta game, I think, will switch once again, where Zergs feel more comfortable in this matchup. But right now, since Protoss have it more figured out than Zergs do, they seem like they're doing quite well against Zerg opponents for the most part. But it looks like KiWiKaKi is going to take this game off of ROOTCatZ, and ROOTCatZ saying go win the tournament. So apparently this was from a tournament series. But anyways, that's going to be the end of this game between these 2 Root Gaming guys. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm out of here.